I get it. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Simon Shepherd. I'm your guide. Next 3/4 of an hour or so. So it's quick fire activities on how to create a marketing plan. As I'm here on behalf of the Humber and East Yorkshire Growth Hub, I've got to inform you a little bit about their business support, just to start the ball rolling. And oh, the slide stuck. Let's see if it's worked. I'll push a button again. There we go. So Grow My SME is the program, and I'm here each Tuesday to deliver webinars. There's one-to-one support, but there's also help for finance and ICT growth. Lots of programs, and if I can offer any advice whatsoever, there's some great business advisors working on behalf of the Humber and East Yorkshire Growth Hub. So please make contact with them. There's lots of help and support on finance, ICT, and also we're here today to talk about business growth, for startups, for careers, for training, lots of stuff going on from the local enterprise partnership, and that's who I'm here on behalf of. Now, hopefully, at the end of 3/4 of an hour, you'll be off to make not just to make your own tea, but to have a little bit of help with a one-page marketing plan. So, without further ado, now one of the questions I'm often asked: what's the difference between sales and marketing? Well, I'm going to look at anyone big enough and brave enough, fancy a go in one word, or not one word, that's a bit silly, in one simple phrase. What's the difference between sales and marketing? Now, I look to the chat line, hopefully, expectantly, or is he staring at it? No, any takers? If not, we'll move on without further ado. Here, sales and marketing. What's the difference between the two? Here's a very simple explanation. Marketing is everything you do to reach and persuade your prospects. Oh, and sales is everything you do to close the sale and get an agreement or contract. So in effect, you could argue that marketing is the magnet and sales is the means of closing the deal, or an alternative metaphor analogy. Actually, I must confess at this moment in time, I'm a bit tired today. Yeah, I am a bit tired. I was up all night looking for a picture of Hull City scoring a goal. Not easy to do. And so they are some, marketing crosses the ball and sales puts it into the net. So often I say that irrespective of how much marketing activity you do, you will need at some stage a sales process, a sales system, some sales skills. You can imagine in a retail environment, you've got a customer coming through the door, then the sales takes over. When somebody rings you up and you answer the phone, it becomes a marketing effort often to get people to make the call, and then the sales to do that. And one of the biggest challenges often with sales is these classic, well-honed statistics. About 80% of sales require a certain number of follow-ups, and a lot of salespeople give up. So this is the thinking, obviously very much more for business to business than business to consumer. It's kind of eye-watering. You think that often sales requires at least 5 follow-up calls after a meeting. Often if you're going to see somebody and you put a quotation in there, you will need to follow up. Now this is the real balance often in a lot of business to business type sales environment. People say, I don't want to be a stalker, I don't want to hound somebody. But invariably, statistics prove otherwise. You have to keep, in contact with your customers, and this is the truth as well in marketing, because it's one thing to attract people, but really the purpose of business. And these words are on a very few marketing books that I've read in most recent times. It was an erstwhile Tom Peters who said this: the purpose of business is to create and keep customers. To create and keep customers. And that will invariably involve a marketing and a sales process. So without further ado, we'll define marketing. And good old Heidi Cohen once said there were 72 definitions of marketing. I know, hard to believe, but I'm going to just share with you today two marketing theories, and then we'll get on to the plan. Many of you, and while Googling, will be familiar with the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps: product, price, promotion, and place. Product, price, promotion, place. These are the 4 legs of your table, no less. I'll just take you through these just for a few minutes, because it's a whole subject in itself. And this is known as the marketing mix. So you will invariably see that your product is meeting a customer solution. The price of it is the cost at which the customer will pay. The place is the means by which you get the product or service to the customer. And then the other element is the P, the promotion, which is the communication. And it's often said with marketing, people perceive marketing to be all about promotion to customers, and not necessarily about all the 4 pillars. I'll take these through very succinctly through the 4 Ps. And we'll start with product. So your product, very simply, is what the company sells. Very simple definition. It's more than that. And this is a question for you when you're sitting in bed tonight, or you know, with your Ovaltine and your or your Horlicks or whatever happens. I must admit that's a bit of a comment for the 1970s. Someone's sitting there thinking, what is he talking about? But we think about what your offer needs to stand apart from your competitors and win over customers. So if you want some homework, there you are, pen and paper. The big question I would ask is that, why should I buy from you? Because whether we like it or not, well, it's a bit thought-provoking, we're all copies. Yes, we are. There's probably someone doing exactly what you're doing. There might be someone a mile away from where you are doing what you're doing. So why should I buy from you? And it's obvious when someone visits your website or sees your brochure or hears it instinctively why you should choose product A over product B. And it's probably best seen here. Now, there's a bit of a thought-provoking one. There on the screen are 4 supermarkets. And I would ask you, what's the difference between them? They're all shops selling similar items. Now, if the marketing team were here from Tesco's and Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's, they'll be telling me something else, but some people would argue the difference between them is wafer thin. Yeah, that's today's not so subtle joke. I tell you what, pre-lockdown, I went to the Great Yorkshire Show. Remember, I've been to the Great Yorkshire Show. Anyway, it came to lunchtime, and being typical Yorkshireman, what did I do? Didn't bring any lunch with me. I'll go in the food tent, you know, free sausages and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I found myself on the Morrison stand. Yeah, there they were, you know. And what was interesting about it, one of the directors of Morrison was there. I thought, oh, let's take this opportunity. So I asked him, please help me out. You know, I'd love to know what is the difference, or what you perceive to be the difference between Morrison's and the other supermarkets. It's not always obvious. And he told me some really interesting stuff. And here it is. He said, they've got a vertically integrated supply chain. They've got the market street, and they've got skilled staff. Now, what he meant by the supply chain was the fact that they actually have their own farms. They've got their own trawlers. They make food. They are, believe it or not, and so I know this from my time in Harrogate at the Yorkshire Show, was that they actually are the UK's second largest food supplier, food manufacturer. They've got the market street there, they've got the fishmonger and the baker, etc. They've got skilled staff. So they were saying this is what they're offering in terms of their differentiators, but sometimes it's not always that obvious. And this ultimately is the trick, or the great hope is that you will make it very clear to your clients and your prospects why you should buy from you. Keep it simple as well. That's products. You might wish to help yourself by just, here are 4 questions. You will get a copy of the slides, but let's rush through these. What is the biggest problem I can help you solve? What's your favorite product and why? How can we make our product better? What don't you like about a competitor? Whatever it might be. These are the type of questions you may wish to start asking your clients. But to gather, because you ultimately are not the decision maker as to whether the people that buy from you or not. It's your clients, the ones who are cracking open their piggy bank and giving to you. So use them to help. So there you are. And then, you think about your product here, a couple of examples of businesses who've tried to differentiate themselves in a rather light-hearted way or memorable way. Would you go to that shop? Feeling peckish? Would you buy from would you take your dog center barks? I'm not going to comment on whether it's a good thing or not, but one thing I will say, it's very memorable. Much in the same way as this business I photographed when I was up in Edinburgh a little while ago. This is a business that's into facilities management, and they logo and label each of their vans with the partnerships. You have Tom and Jerry and Starsky and Hutch. Whether you like it or not, it's memorable. So first thing to think about is your product, why it's different, and to make it memorable. And even this particular flooring company, Lino Ritchie. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Now, some of you might be lost on that one, but for those of you who are of a certain age group, will remember the song. Whether it's creating the right perception, but in terms of brand, think very much about your product, your brand, your perception, and why I should buy from you. Then we move on to price, product, and then price. How do you wish to perceive? The Travelodge and the Ritz are both hotels. They both have beds in a room. They both have, all the facilities you may or may not need, or do they? Or are they fundamentally different? So are you at a certain, it's how you wish to price yourself. And here's a good example. Imperial Caviar. They're talking very much about talking about how affordable caviar is. And the argument is, actually, if you consider yourself to offer I don't like this phrase, a cheap price, they're cheapening the brand. But they argue, instead of cheapening the brand, they're actually being transparent to the market and educating people that caviar isn't that expensive. There's 2 ways of looking at things. So it is ultimately about the perception. So as long as you can justify your position, because if you're going into one hotel, it's £50 a night, and the other hotel is £50 a night, what's the difference between the two? Product and price. And again, you may wish to, I won't read through these, you'll send you copies. Think about asking your customers all about price. Then you might think about your pricing strategies. So, are you going to discount? How it might be? Are you going to compete with the competition? Is the variance in the pricing? All about that. And that is where you'll do your homework. I think for a lot of startup and young businesses, I know from my own personal experience, many clients I've worked with, pricing a product is probably or a service is one of the hardest things to do, given the competition. But if you're confident in your brand and your product, your offering, then how you wish to be perceived, then you will soon know whether you've hit the right price point or not. So we now move on to place. Actually, I was going to do some fish jokes today, but they give me a terrible headache. Won't do that. I only said that for the halibut. So let's talk about place. How are you going to get your product? It's about the location. Really simple stuff. Are you going to sell direct? You're going to go through distribution, online, direct, online, indirect. How do your competitors go to market? Who are you trying to market to? With the growth of the internet, you'll find that many businesses have shifted online, but then you might reflect on a different pricing strategy to online and offline sales and the route to market. And often the example I use is really about thinking very much about the customer. Think down that route of how you can get your product best to the customer. Is it online? Is it offline? Is it through a third party? That depends on so much on what you do. And last but not least, the 4 Ps is promotion. And again, it's 2 questions to ask. Which channels does the customer use? What message is more important? Timing, and looking at your competitor's way of doing it. How are you intending to reach your clients? You know, the classic, if you owned a restaurant, for example, you know, would it be inopportune to be putting leaflets through people's doors? Direct mail, very old-fashioned, you could argue. But then I would say, hang on a second, if you've got a takeaway in a town and your aim is to reach your local market, well, maybe that is the most effective way to put menus through people's doors. There is your audience. So, you know, you always think about how you can best reach your clients. We'll tackle it a little bit more. So here comes, that was a very fast tour, the difference between sales and marketing and the 4 Ps, product, price, promotion, place. We will now, without the aid of a safety net, build a marketing plan. And think of this. Think you're going to host. Let's that Greg's on the call. Let's think we're all going around to Greg's house and he's going to do a party. What's the thing you would do? What would you do if you're having a party? Well, you get the vol au vents in and the baby sham. But after that, if you're organizing a party at your house, what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you do. You think of yourself, it is like you set goals and make a to-do list, like planning a party. You think about making the preparations, you want to organize all the food and all the drink and entertainment, but then you choose to invite people or not invite people. You don't want Auntie Hilda to come round, she has too many gins. So, you know, think of it that way. So really very much about who you're trying to reach, why they should come. So very simple metaphor to think of it very much like a party. So here we go. Here is your 1-page marketing plan, and we'll tackle some of the issues we've just spoken about. But before we do, I'm going to share with you a marketing philosophy that's very much geared around modern day customers. You really divide it up. Those of you who want to read a little bit more, it's called paid, owned, earned. And the thinking is that you own your customers. So they're owned, you've got a direct relationship with them, and you market them in a particular way. You'll hopefully have a database and some form of direct communication with them. But if you want to market yourself to strangers or prospects, you will have to pay for the privilege. So that's paid. So put some money aside to invest in print, television, whatever it might be, direct mail, exhibitions, reach prospects. Concentrate on developing your activity with your own, but then there's all this other gang who you've earned. Now, they will be your Facebook followers, your Twitter followers, whoever it is there, and you've earned them. They're neither a prospect or maybe a prospect or a customer, but they also may become advocates. So you may wish to choose to use them to be advocates for your product. So for example, they could be followers on Facebook and they will share what your postings or on Twitter, whatever it might be, or be posting reviews about you or engaging with you, but they're not spending any money. So think that you may wish to choose different marketing means, a different offering, a different message to strangers, customers, and advocates. Well, worth looking, thinking about that paid, owned, earned, because you might end up with 3 different marketing plans. There we go, paid, owned, earned. Right. Number 1 then, who are your target customers? Well, there may be prospects, there may be customers, there may be advocates. The number 1 thing, who are you trying to reach? So that is your first step. Now let's assume we're a manufacturer of prams. Well, where's this going? Well, I'll tell you where it's going. Who would you market to if you're a manufacturer of prams? I can hear you think. I can hear those cogs turning. Well, here's a good example. If you are a manufacturer and it's a business sale, you may be marketing to retailers, wholesalers, you may be exporting, you may be supplying direct. Maybe your focus might be on design or style. So as a manufacturer, we're not marketing to the consumer. However, you may choose to market to the consumer. So you'll be marketing to expectant mums, newlyweds, grandparents, and the offering there may be something that's practical or value. So you might end up in this situation with a pram manufacturer would have 2 marketing plans and 2 focuses, depending on who your audience is. Think of it that way. And as it's paid, owned, earned, you end up with different messages. So it's very much a different message to a grandparent as to why they should buy the pram, as opposed to marketing to a retailer. Very different. First and foremost, so starting point is, who is your audience? Got it? Bingo. The next, after your target audience, often is to have a positioning statement, an elevator pitch, or a strap line. And here is a classic example of a business that has done fantastically well with the same repetitious strapline. Does exactly what it says on the tin or on seal. So it is emblematic of their business. It's a slightly different thing. It's a larger business, but for small business, if you could want to think about trying to, rather than market your company or your brand, you may choose to attach a tagline. Slack is a good example. A messaging app for teams who put robots on Mars. So, it is about, we've been successful with NASA. So it's actually telling a story in a different way. So maybe the positioning and the strapline and the tagline is something that you may wish to adapt, again, to differentiate your business, but also to position your business. Tagline. So you've got your target audience, positioning statement, and then it's really thinking carefully, as I mentioned earlier, about why should I buy from you? Your value proposition. And it's often divided up into 3 ways. Why people want to use your product. So it's the brand experience, the experience of how people experience your product, and what you're solving, what you're helping. It is packaging things up so people can, your customers can identify what you do. Here is the challenge. It's called Simon's Granny Test. Ask a friend, neighbor, whatever it is, to visit your website. Let them look at your website for, say, 30 seconds, and then ask them to describe what you do, how you do it, and how you help others. Someone can then reprise what you're doing And it is back to the same issue. You can often do it on a more detailed scale, as mentioned, by surveying your customers. You want people to become understanding exactly what you do. So sometimes the less is more scenario in making sure your proposition is very clear, as it probably is for the Ronseal and Slack and the likes, making sure that people understand the value you're offering them. So that is a combination very much of the brand, how you're perceived, the experience people have, and then the product itself. And the value proposition is usually a combination of those three things. And often it's hidden value. When people will tell you something about why they chose you that you probably didn't realize. Only one way to find out, ask. The next thing, which you've touched upon already, is the price. How you're going to price your product or service, and then how you will position it. So think really carefully about that, and that should fall in line with your value opposition, your strap line, and who you're trying to target. Then, as we saw earlier, how are you going to get your product, not just logistically, but also your message to your customers? So that is the place. So taking elements of the 4 Ps. And then, as I touched upon earlier, what is the sales element of your marketing plan? Who is going to do sales? So often that manifests itself in some form of sales strategy. So is anyone going to be picking up the telephone to customers? Who's going to be engaging with them by email? Are you going to be using AI? Are you going to have a little chat bot, which forms part of a sales strategy? What is it that is going to be there? To use the analogy I spoke about earlier, to put the ball in the back of the net. So you will need a sales strategy in the future. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a webinar all about sales strategies and sales skills. Yeah, that was a subtle plug, wasn't it? Yeah, proud of that one. Next bit would fall into your 1-page marketing plan. Is about the service. Customers, you've maybe sold your product or service to a client. What's happening in terms of follow-up? Is there an aftermarket element? How are you going to keep your customers? What are you going to do? Are you going to be sending newsletters to them? Are you going to be calling them? Are you going to be sending a survey to them? Are you going to be ignoring them? I don't say joking, I say ignoring, but is there something post-sale? Best example, I can give you some personal one. I bought a car recently, and it was fantastic. To say the service, not the man with the she's servicing the car, but the follow-up. They contacted me afterwards. Everything okay? This kind of thing. They sent me some flowers to the home as a thank you. They rang me up to see how it was going. They tried to and mention about the first service. They were discounting for me just to keep the whole service experience. And when I visited the garage afterwards to ask a question, because I had a slight issue with my tyres, they said, just bear with us a second while we're talking to you. Can you have the keys to your car? And they went and washed and valeted the car. So, as a goodwill gesture. But there's so much, but it's all about that in that business, about the customer experience, which is a combination of sales and service. It's often been said, not just by me, that business is won and lost on service. So your marketing plan would encompass that. So we can all recount stories, haven't we? We've had a great customer experience somewhere, and we've had not such a good one. And really, it is often the ones that you probably have either a very good experience with or not so good one that you will be most memorable. And so that then leads on to our final element, which is about the promotion. So you've got your message, you've got your audience, you've got all the pieces of the puzzle together. How are you going to communicate with your customers? This is really thinking about the promotional tactics you are going to use. But if you are, for example, trying to reach a particular group, let's say expectant mums, or we saw earlier for the pram manufacturer, you might be thinking, well, we need to be on Facebook, we need to be on Instagram, we need to be doing those kind of things. But surely the easiest way to do that is to actually be speaking to some expectant mums and to mums and asking them where they would see their likely messages. Now, competition, we all have them, and it's not a bad thing to borrow a trick or two from them. But what are they doing? How are they getting their message to the audience? You might wish to replicate or to go down a different channel, but it's to have a full handle and to benchmark yourself against another business. So to do that, and really that involves often for many of you market research. And one of the easiest and best tips I can offer on this is if you want to know what your competition are doing, then just sign up for Google Alerts and follow your competition that way. Also, that only doesn't encompass social media, but you can use the likes of mention.com and Hootsuite just to follow what your competition are doing. Keeps you on your toes, because believe it or not, they're probably following you. So always be on the lookout for monitoring competition, but not to be obsessed by them. But you can imagine, you know, my supermarket example, they're all following what each other's doing, keeping their ear to the ground. It's absolutely critical to know how you stack up with them. So they are. Half an hour later, we have a marketing plan. Just to reiterate, target market, who you're targeting, your positioning statement, the value you're offering to the customers, to make it very clear, it's clearly understood. Your pricing, how does that compare to your competition, and how do you position yourself? How are you going to get your message to your customers? What's the sales process? What service is there to prove your offering works? The campaigns, which will be part of your promotion, and then to research your competition. That can be all on one sheet of paper. That would be a simple way. And I will be sending you the slides. You can go and fill it in. It'd be great to hear from you. But I'm going to give you, to finish off today's little extravaganza, we're going to look at a customer. And let's imagine we're a plumbing business based in Hull. What would be a likely marketing plan for that business? It's a very simplified plan I've come up with. So they are, well, sorry, I should say, hold up, let's say they're based in Beverley, Freudian slip there. So they would be targeting consumers in Beverley. Their strapline, their message would be, no job too small. And their value is, and the specialization would be supplying new boilers and also fitted bathrooms. And they've got a, wow, 24-hour call out. They've got a lot of value in their offering. Hopefully it's very clear. They know who they're trying to reach. They know what their message is going to be. They know where their value and their speciality is. And then there may be something which may be a USP, 24-hour call out. So I don't know how many people live in Beverley. That's 20,000 potentially with customers there, and the people to do extra work for those existing people. And what we've decided to do, inbound marketing. So for the plumber, so they may invest in search engine optimization. So some keywords. So when someone is typing in plumber in Beverley or local plumber or plumber near me, they're likely to pick up a very simple website that demonstrates with customer case studies and a lead magnet on that website, so they're attracting inquiries. They'll also appear in the directories like Checkatrade and Yell. They'll invest in the likes of Google My Business so they can pick up reviews and use that as a microsite. And then, because it's a consumer marketing, they'll be active probably on the local Facebook groups that are in Beverley, and to be talking on Facebook about the boilers they're fitting and the fitted bathrooms. and then they'll keep for their existing customers just a database, keep in contact with them, and they'll be sending out newsletters. So some inbound, very simple. Now, one of the issues often focused on many businesses, don't try and do too much. It could be, you could argue putting brochures through doors will be a good thing. It may be for the restaurant, others, but somebody, you can only spin so many plates, because then we focus very much on outbound marketing. They may choose to run some Facebook ads. Their database might be construed to be outbound. They'll use the likes of investing on the On Your Doorstep magazine. They'll put leaflets through people's doors. And then they're running some keywords through SEO. They may invest in pay-per-click. Now, altogether, I think there's 10 activities. If we doubled up database and newsletters twice, that's quite a lot. And you can see that you may choose to do what works and forget what doesn't. So it's a very simple communications plan for your plumber. You must appreciate the one thing I would strongly advise for you is get the other bits right first. The product, the price, promotion, place, all the other elements in place first before you do anything else. Because your inbound marketing and your outbound marketing should convey your messages to your audience. Now, the plumber may well be marketing themselves as well, not just to consumers, but they may be wanting to liaise with builders as well, or carpenters, or ancillary services. There may be a double edge to the marketing. Now, the one thing to do always with your marketing before you do anything else is to think about how you're going to measure your success and how much is in the kitty. So, do the leaflets work? Does the pay-per-click work? Are we getting leads from the website? It is absolutely a necessity to think about the measurements of your activity to see if it works, because you do what works and you forget what doesn't. And the principal metric for that is money, return on investment. So think about that as our denouement. And in 40 minutes, I promise you 3/4 of an hour, I would like to thank you for attending. That was a very whistle-stop tour. You can see where you can get information on the programs. So hopefully, in a very short space of time, I've given you an insight into the basics of marketing, like price, promotion, place, and some very simple steps for creating a dynamic marketing plan. For those of you who attended today, you'll be the recipient of slides. You'll get a copy for even watch it again. You can see, and you're more than welcome to embrace any questions. And I'm now going to reach for the chat line. And is there anything on the chat line? I don't know. I'm trying to look. Nothing. I've stunned you into silence. I think so. It's getting to 5 o'clock, isn't it? It's time to do. Yeah. Right. Oh, Peter. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Peter. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. It's very useful. Wow. Yes. Well, if there aren't any questions, I'll answer them. It was a whistle-stop tour, so if I did speak too fast, I do apologise. I was, when I was remember at school, I was always told 3/4 of an hour before it get, before attention span, all that kind of stuff. And not that we're trying to hurry, but we've do it short and sweet and to the point. So without further ado, I'll close by saying two things. We are actually doing webinars every Tuesday, so you can always catch us. We'll be back on at 2 o'clock next week. I do know I have a body beneath this neck. And we actually are doing workshops face-to-face. We're actually face-to-face. So on a Thursday at the Humberview Hotel, if you want to sign up, we're doing marketing digital marketing, we're doing social media, and we're doing sales this week and next and the following week. So we're there in town if you fancy a little day out. Be lunch as well. Be lunch. So we'll be there. Oh, Sam's gonna be there. Sam's there on Thursday. Are you? Well, I tell you what, look forward to that. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. And for you all, I'm going to bid you farewell. I will take any questions if you have any. If not, I'll sail off into the sunset and wish you a nice Tuesday.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Well,
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
adios.
Cheers, Sam. And speak
See
later.
you guys. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
See you, Sam.